To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people.
America just witnessed the unthinkable. A single bullet on a quiet college campus has shaken the entire nation.
Charlie Kirk is gone.
A father, a husband, a voice to millions, assassinated in broad daylight. Tonight, the FBI is scrambling, rumors are spreading, and the country is asking the same chilling question. Was this chaos, or was it a professional hit? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see this tragedy forever. Take a deep breath, because what just unfolded isn't light. It's the kind of moment that breaks through the noise and demands your full attention. The president looked straight into the lens, a grieving family stood in silence, a shaken movement tried to steady itself, and the entire nation was left wondering once again. How did we get here? This isn't a night for hot takes or quick reactions. It's a moment for honesty, for hard truths, for the kind of clarity that only comes when the weight of loss is undeniable. A single shot fired from a rooftop in Utah is more than a headline. It's a ripple that reaches every kitchen table across America. Here's what the president said. He called Charlie Kirk a patriot, a man of faith, a voice who spoke directly to young people. Agree with him or not, his influence can't be dismissed. He filled college auditoriums with students who could have spent their Tuesday nights anywhere, but instead chose debate, chose ideas, chose engagement. For many, he transformed politics from a boring obligation into a purpose-driven mission. Say what you will about Charlie, millions were listening. And when someone with that kind of reach is silenced in a single moment, it's not just a life cut short, it's an entire ecosystem shaken to its core.
He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith. And we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever.
The first reports trickling out of Utah don't bring much comfort. They sketch a dark and uncertain picture. In its initial briefing, the FBI revealed they are piecing things together from grainy security footage, a figure in dark clothing, possibly firing from a rooftop, a long-range shot.
Beyond that, not much to go on.
And that, in itself, tells us two important things. First, whoever pulled the trigger knew exactly what they were doing. Second, investigators are essentially navigating through heavy fog. At one point, a person of interest was even taken into custody, only to be released later.
The information we have on the suspect, the possible shooter, is taken from closed-circuit TV here on campus. We do have that. We're analyzing it. But it is security camera footage, so you can kind of guess what the quality of that is. But we do know dressed in all dark clothing, but we don't have a much better description other than that.
Where do you believe the shot came from?
The shot came from here on campus, from a location at a fair, potentially from a roof. Yes, a longer distance shot from a roof.
So to clarify, with the security camera footage you have and the person of interest that's in custody, does that match up?
That's what we're trying to decipher.
Earlier today, the announcement was clear. The suspect tied to the horrific shooting that claimed Charlie Kirk's life was in custody. The FBI publicly thanks state and local authorities in Utah for their cooperation. But just hours later, at 6 p.m. Eastern, came the reversal. After interrogation, that same individual was released. The Bureau stressed the investigation is still ongoing and promised more updates in the name of transparency. That leaves us in a tense, uneasy place, a nation carrying a fresh wound but starved of answers.
And that mix is volatile.
Because when hard facts are scarce, narratives rush in to fill the vacuum. And those narratives don't just explain, they divide, they recruit, they weaponize.
We're already seeing it unfold online.
Some people have met the news with grief, prayer, and pleas for peace. Others? They are raising virtual toasts, celebrating the death of a man they saw as their greatest political enemy.
Stop and think about that.
Imagine the person you believe has done the most damage to your world, and then imagine your first reaction to hearing they've been assassinated is joy. A smirk here, a retweet there, that's the reality. Two Americas, sharing the same map but looking out through completely different windows.
If anyone in the sound of my voice celebrated even a little bit at the news of this shooting, I would beg you to look in the mirror and to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere. I don't care what his politics are. I care that he was an American.
I think people are already saying things they shouldn't be saying. Joe Walsh is a good example of that.
What did you know?
I mean, today, a 31-year-old father of two and a husband is dead. There's really nothing more to say than this is unacceptable and it's wrong. That's number one. I've heard J.B. Pritzker blame Donald Trump today. I don't understand. Our friend is dead, and we've got people out here who just can't stop grinding political axes.
This isn't just about political disagreements anymore, it's curdled into something darker.
Disgust.
The sneer of how could anyone follow someone like that? The cold dismissal of they got what they deserved.
That's not politics.
That's decay.
And the instant reaction? Pointing fingers. Blame the left.
Blame the right. Blame the rhetoric, the network, the leader. You heard it in the flood of responses. Some measured, some smug, some dripping with venom. But hold on, just pause for a moment. The House will be in order.
The House will be in order.
Even in Congress, what should have been a simple gesture, a moment of silence, turned into a squabble so small it feels unbearable. And that's the question staring us in the face. If we can't put our differences aside long enough to bow our heads for 30 seconds after a man is murdered, what can we agree on? We've let the most basic decency slip right through our fingers. We've turned decency itself into a partisan football.
And for what?
A handful of extra likes? A fleeting sense of moral superiority? Still, let's not pretend words don't carry weight. Messages shape mindsets.
Rhetoric matters. Tone matters.
When influential voices brand their opponents as fascists, Nazis, or existential threats to the real America, they are not just speaking, they are striking matches. And yes, that fire is lit from both sides. Let's not kid ourselves. The flames are everywhere. But here's the harder truth. Two things can be true at once. We can reject political violence in all its forms, without hesitation or excuse. And at the same time, we can demand clarity. Which fires are burning hottest, who's pouring gasoline on them, and who's cashing in while the rest of us choke on the smoke? Because outrage isn't just an emotion anymore, it's an industry.
Someone always profits when the country is on edge.
Let's address the theory already circulating, the idea of a professional hit. Think about it, a rooftop perch, a single round, a clean getaway, and no getaway car spotted right away. It paints the image of someone cold, methodical, deliberate, an operator who studied the angles, mapped the timing, and executed with precision. If that's the picture forming in your mind, you're not imagining it alone.
Assassination of Charlie Kirk, to me, is indicative of a professional hit.
Former FBI officials are already echoing what many are thinking. This didn't look like a spur-of-the-moment snap.
It looked deliberate.
Could a skilled amateur have pulled it off?
Possibly.
But the more you study the scene, the crowd, the sightlines, the tent, the distance, the less it feels like chaos and the more it resembles choreography.
One shot. One target. One nation left in shock.
That's not proof, but it is a pattern.
And patterns matter.
Here's the caution, though. Early narratives almost always miss the mark. Think back to Butler, and how the first wave of reports shifted once hard facts came in.
That's why nothing should be etched in stone yet.
What's needed is evidence and transparency, not speculation wrapped in the illusion of certainty. Because if we never see a suspect identified, if the updates remain vague and thin, An investigation that drags on forever without clarity is a breeding ground for cynicism, something this country can't afford. If there's solid intelligence, share it. If there are actual arrests, say so. In moments like this, sunlight isn't just disinfectant, it's triage. But the truth cuts deeper than names or tactics. What we're witnessing isn't only political, it's spiritual. You could hear it in the governor's trembling voice as he urged people to seek their better angels. You could hear it in the prayers whispered for the grieving family. You could hear it in the calls for each of us to live with purpose. And yet, I know how hollow that can sound in a culture built on contempt. We've created an economy that's out in takedowns. We don't reward persuasion, we reward humiliation. We don't celebrate humility, we monetize cruelty. It's no wonder then, when you feast daily on dehumanization, violence stops feeling like an exception. It starts to feel like the rule. So where does that leave us? If you were one of the people touched by Charlie's work, if his words, his energy, his mission lit something inside you, if you're one of the people who packed into Charlie's campus debates, tuned into his interviews, or stood in the crowd at his rallies, and tonight you feel gutted, listen closely.
This is not the time to retreat. Don't sink into the couch and scroll yourself numb.
This is the moment to do exactly what he urged you to do: show up.
Volunteer. Knock on doors. Launch a campus chapter. Host an event.
Mentor a young person who's curious about politics but afraid to step in. And yes, pray. Not as a desperate last resort, but as a first discipline. Because action without prayer burns out, and prayer without action withers. We need both. And if you weren't a supporter of Charlie, if you rolled your eyes every time he spoke, if you argued with him silently from across a screen, then pause and reflect on this. Nothing he said, nothing you disagreed with, ever justified a bullet. The heart of the American promise is that we can clash fiercely, mock relentlessly, and then sit down over coffee. Here, we don't settle disputes with gunfire. We settle them with votes, with arguments, with humor, with ideas that prove themselves over time. If you can't live with that, then you're not defending democracy, you're suffocating it.
We asked for a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk, and then the Democrats decided at that point in time to try to shout that down. First and foremost, Charlie Kirk is now pronounced deceased. He was murdered. I don't know anything about the suspect yet. I think everyone's waiting to hear that, but that type of rhetoric is the exact type of rhetoric that got him killed. So to be clear, we should have been allowed to pray for Charlie. I would encourage the speaker to go back tomorrow and let us pray on the floor for Charlie Kirk's family now and the rest of the people that have been impacted by this terrible loss.
Congresswoman, you said they caused this. You said
most certainly, yes, they did cause this. That type of rhetoric, you calling people fascists, you basically saying that we're Nazis, take away people's rights. Charlie Kirk was literally murdered, and you can see that footage online. And I would encourage people, instead of sharing that, please share pictures of his family and the legacy that he left.
Now, a word about the media, because it doesn't get to shrug this off. When a network platform gives space to commentary suggesting maybe his rhetoric brought this on, while the victim's body is still warm, that's not analysis. That's moral malpractice. Yes, some apologies have followed. Fine. But accountability is more than a Notes app screenshot. It means changing the incentives. It means producers deciding not to book the edgy guest who turns tragedy into a talking point. It means anchors refusing to pump speculation into the bloodstream just to keep viewers angry enough to sit through the next ad break. It means remembering that kids are watching. Charlie's kids. Your kids. And they are learning what adulthood looks like by watching us. That's why I feel such deep grief for Charlie Kirk's family, and, yes, real anger. Anger at how easily we cheapen human life for clicks, ratings, or tribal points. And that anger is what drove me to write this book. Evil doesn't go away by ignoring it. You have to confront it head-on, with strength. No hedging, no excuses. And yes, the media is deeply entangled in this. Just an hour ago, the president of MSNBC, one of the most toxic networks ever to air in this country, had to chastise commentator Matthew Dowd. Why? Because Dowd suggested that maybe Charlie Kirk's own rhetoric was to blame for his murder. Think about that. The man hadn't even been pronounced dead yet, and already his death was being reframed as his fault. And it happened on a national broadcast. Now, I know the question is coming, isn't the violence mostly coming from one side? You heard the transcript. It leans heavily in one direction. But here's my answer, stripped down. Wherever it comes from, it must be named, condemned, and punished.
Period. No whataboutism. No cheap moral arithmetic.
If you throw a punch because someone else threw a punch, guess what? You're still throwing a punch.
A punch is still a punch.
The rule of law isn't a choose-your-own adventure story. You either believe in it when it's your side and when it's the other side, or you don't believe in it at all.
What unsettles me most isn't our policy differences. It's that we no longer share the same reality.
As one host put it, we're living in two Americas, and the divide isn't just about how we vote, it's about what we think words mean. Violence,
Democracy, extremism, truth.
We don't even share a common vocabulary anymore. And when language splinters, everything becomes a Rorschach test. That's how one group can watch a clip and call it journalism, while another watches the same footage and sees a celebration of murder.
So how do we repair that fracture? You start small.
You define terms.
You insist on specifics.
You push beyond vibes and demand facts that can actually be verified. And when those facts aren't available, you have the courage to say, "We don't know yet." That isn't weakness, it's maturity. Senator Marshall said something powerful earlier. His looking in the mirror, asking how he himself can be better, even though he stood on the same side as Charlie. That's the kind of reflection, the kind of humility, that my heart longs for. Because that's where unification begins. But what I cannot accept, what I cannot stomach, is being lied to. And that's exactly what's been happening. For years, we've been told by Democratic leaders that the overwhelming share of violence comes from white supremacists. That line gets repeated day after day, as though repetition alone makes it true. But it doesn't. And here's the reality. You cannot cool the temperature of a nation while lying to its face and demonizing half of its people. At the end of the day, truth still matters. Objective truth still exists. And it demands respect. Yet the left refuses to acknowledge the obvious, that the vast majority of political violence in this country is coming from their side. Now, let's return to what the president said. Charlie's voice is bigger and grander than ever. Sometimes, when a public figure passes, that's just sentimental fluff. But in this moment, it could be prophecy, if his supporters choose to make it so. Not by chasing revenge, but by showing resolve. An assassin tried to erase him with a bullet. Instead, that act ensured he will never be silenced. Because together, we can carry his message forward. Together, we can ensure that his voice, his vision, and his legacy echo for generations to come. And today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice truly has become bigger and grander than ever before.
And it's not even close. May God bless Charlie's memory. May God watch over his family.
And may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you.
To student groups, media outlets, research centers, and churches willing to face hard truths. Honor him not with silence, but with action. The way you honor a debater is by debating better. The way you honor an organizer is by organizing smarter. The way you honor a father is by caring for his family, through prayer, through generosity, through presence, and by being that kind of father in your own home. One practical note: when the facts about the shooter come to light, take them as they are, not as you wish them to be. If the motive aligns with your priors, don't gloat. If it shatters your priors, don't deny. Either way, don't let one villain's story dictate the direction of your life. That's handing evil the steering wheel. You want to do something truly radical? Refuse to hate millions of people you've never met. Refuse to define yourself by enemies. Refuse to let algorithms trick you into believing the cruelest voices are the truest representatives of the other side. They are not. They are just the loudest. And to leaders, both elected and unelected, listen carefully. Stop auditioning for the algorithm. You're not elected to go viral, you're entrusted to lead. That means lowering the temperature, speaking clearly when everyone else is shouting, telling the truth even when your own base doesn't want to hear it, and modeling what real adulthood looks like in a country starving for it. Now, look closely at the footage. Look at the venue, the crowd packed in tight, the tent canopy hovering above Charlie Kirk. For the shooter to take that shot, they had to be positioned with precision, perched at an angle that allowed a clear line of sight, lining up what was essentially a headshot. And let's be blunt, the intent of that shot was immediate incapacitation. This wasn't the work of someone casually wandering onto a rooftop. This was calculated. This was skilled. Forget the idea of spontaneous combustion, the notion that someone just woke up this morning and decided to do something reckless. What we're looking at has the marks of a professional. Whoever fired that shot had likely been on that rooftop long before the crowd arrived. He went undetected, unnoticed. No warnings, no reports of anyone spotting him. That's not luck, that's preparation. And if you're still with me right now, This part is for you. If you're grieving, I'm standing with you. If you're angry, I understand. If you feel numb, that's human.
But don't stay stuck there. Channel it. Do something.
Comment below. What's one thing you can do this week, not next year, this week, to help build a civic culture where arguments are fierce but never fatal?
Volunteer. Donate. Sit in on a campus club meeting and really listen to a student you disagree with. Drop your thoughts in the comments.
And if you want more conversations that don't cave to the outrage machine, subscribe. I'm not here to perform rage. I'm here to help build resilience, and I'll leave you with one line. Not from a president, not from a pundit. And we're the ones holding the pen. What comes next isn't pre-written.
It's not inevitable.
It depends on whether we choose to build or burn, to argue or to attack, to make peace or just posture about it online. Charlie's life was cut short, but his voice doesn't have to be. The way we carry it forward is by the choices we make starting right now. So yes, mourn, be angry, let your heart break. But then do the harder, braver thing. Turn that energy into action. Build the bridge. Join the debate.
Refuse the algorithm's poison.
Because the future isn't something we inherit, it's something we create. If this resonated, don't just scroll.
Like the video so it reaches someone who needs sanity tonight. Subscribe if you want more than outrage.
And drop your prayers, your plans, and your practical next steps in the comments, because the next chapter is ours to write, and we're going to need every pen. Music swells, then fades into outro screen with the title "Our Subscribe Prompts."